For this morning, if you will, we're going to be over in the book of Jeremiah again. We're going to be over in chapter 33. And what the Lord laid on my heart this week, and He actually laid this on me Monday afternoon, and He's allowed me to study it all week, and it just keeps getting more gooder and more gooder as we go along with it. But the Lord is really laid restoration on us. And I'll show you why I'm getting there. In Jeremiah in chapter 33, before we open this up, I want to give you just a little bit of background. Y'all can see it's only 3 verses, so we'll be out here in a couple of hours. It won't take a bit long to get through them all. But if you back up to Jeremiah chapter 32, what you will find is Israel was going through a time when they were defiling God. They were worshiping the prophets of Baal. They were working against God in every way and shape, form, and fashion that you could find, that you could think of. And the Lord come to Jeremiah in chapter 32, and He told Jeremiah, the king's name was Zedekiah, and He told Jeremiah to go speak to the king and let him know that the Chaldeans was going to take him in, and Babylon was fixing to come in and take over. And what this done is it made the king mad. And so we'll find in 33, when we first open it up there, first of all, it says that it was the second time that the word had come to Jeremiah. But he's locked up in prison, okay? Jeremiah is locked up in the king's court. And the reason he is locked up in the king's court is because King Zedekiah, for some reason, didn't like Jeremiah telling him that he's fixing to lose his kingdom. Go figure. But they locked him up. And the Lord spoke to Jeremiah while he was there. And this is where this is kind of where I want to pick up here. It says, moreover, the word of the Lord came unto Jeremiah the second time, while he was yet shut up in the court of the prison, saying, and I thought about that, and the Lord laid this on my heart. It said that Jeremiah was locked up in prison, right? But it said the word of the Lord still came to him. And when I was praying about that, and the Lord was speaking to me about this, He said, how many times have my people been in trouble, and I still go speak to them? You see, the thing is you don't have to wait to the house of God to hear the voice of God. You don't have to wait till Sunday morning to hear God's voice. He will come to you wherever He needs you. Jeremiah was in a prison. He was locked up because he had obeyed the will of God. He had done what God had told him to. And what did he do? The Lord did not leave him comfortless. He still came and spoke to him. And church, I want you to know this morning, as we talk about a restoration, as we talk about a renewing, you may be living in a prison right now, but God still wants to speak to you this morning. You know, too many times, and we find it, and I think I've even preached about it. But one of the things that I read that I really liked about this, it was talking about, while he was there in prison, the Word of God spoke to him. And if you go back through, after you get through the 4 Gospels and get into all the epistles, and most of them that Paul wrote, if you'll notice the really heartfelt, dug down deep ones, Paul was in prison. You see, church, a lot of times we get down in those places, and what do? We give up. We throw our hands up. We don't know what to do. There's something in the world going on. We don't know what to do. We don't know where to go. But I want you to know right now, God still works inside the prisons. It doesn't matter what's in your life. It doesn't matter what's going on around you. It doesn't matter what the devil's trying to lock you down in. God still works in the prison. He still wants to restore you. You may be pulled down. You may think there's no way out. There's no way up and nothing you can do. But the Word of God still wants to speak in your life. And I'll show you why. Y'all bear with me this morning. He says, thus saith the Lord, the maker thereof, the Lord that formed it, to establish it. The Lord is his name. You see, he's telling Jeremiah, he said, you're in prison, but he's speaking to him. He said, Israel is being destroyed. It talks about it, if you go back and do some studying on it, you'll find out they had wiped the place out. It was in a desolation place, and there was nothing left there. And what did the Lord say? He said, I'm the maker of it. I formed it. I built it. I put it together. Oh, church, let me tell you something. He told his children, he said, I knew you before you was born. I built you. I formed you. I am here to establish you. Amen. You said, preacher, why are you singing all that? It's over in 32 and 17. Jeremiah says, all the Lord, behold, thou hast made the heaven and the earth by thy great power and stretched out arm. And there is nothing too hard for thee. You see, when you start talking about restorations, I like old cars. Anybody in here like old cars and stuff? How many times have you ever seen one out in a field sitting in a fence row that was all rusted up and all that? And somebody that don't like old cars says that's a pile of junk. It's no good. But those of you that like old cars, you can still see the beauty in that old muscle car or that old classic car sitting out there. I want you to know right now, God is telling us He sees the beauty in you. You may be walking in a prison right now, but He says, I am the restoration. I made you. I formed you. I am here. I am ready to establish you this morning.
Amen.
He said, we don't have to walk in that prison. You see, we look at them old cars and people that don't like old cars. That's too much work. That's too far gone. We're just going to let that thing sit out there. But you take somebody that has a love for that. What do? Yes, that's a lot of work, but I love it. I want to fix it up. I want to make it right. You see, God looks at our lives the same way, but it's never too much work for Him. He created this world through His voice. He created the heavens and the earth. He built man in His own image and breathed the breath of life in him. Why do we think He can't do something in our lives? You see, most of the time we live in these prisons because we don't ask God to take us out of them. We live in these prisons because we don't believe. We don't believe that He can pull us out of them. We walk with troubles and trials in our life. We walk without joy in our life because we don't believe that He can do it. He said, I made this place. He said, I made it. I formed it. I built it. I am the Lord. I'm not just some old preacher. I'm not just some old pew setter. I am the Lord. I spoke life and it became so.
That's right. That's right.
He's more. He's more than what we give Him credit for. If you're back on up to Jeremiah chapter 2. Told you I've been studying Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 2 verse 5. And if this don't break your heart right here, there's nothing that will. But this was the Lord speaking to Jeremiah. He said, hear the word of the Lord, O house of Jacob. This is verse 4. And the families of the house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, what iniquity have your fathers found in me? That they are gone far from me and have walked after vanity and are become vain. He said, what iniquity have your fathers found in me? You see, the Lord was speaking there. The Lord said, what have I done wrong? What is it you see in me? Why is it your fathers won't follow me? What is the iniquity? What is the vanity that is inside of me that my people won't follow me? You see, that's the same way. I thought about that, and I thought about the words, and the Lord spoke to me, and He said, you know, it's getting the same direction today. What is it that we we hold such that we see in God that would prevent us from following Him. I believe he had tears in his eyes. I believe he was heartbroken because his children wouldn't walk after him. I believe it just ripped him apart to know this, that his children won't commit themselves to him. He said, I want to restore you. He said, I want to talk to you in prison. He said, I created all this. I spoke all this. Nothing is too hard for me.
Amen.
But yet we won't walk with him. We find everything in the world to put in front of him. I wouldn't ask anybody to embarrass themselves at all. But I wonder how many times this week, just this week, how many times did we put something in front of serving God? Whether it be speaking to someone, whether it be reading the Bible, whether it be studying our Sunday school lesson, whether it would be doing a work for the church, whatever it may be. How many times this week did we put other things in front of Him? You say, why? You tell me why. You know, when you get these old head colds or sickness and all this comes up in our life, what has God ever done to make you think He can't take care of it? What has He done that makes you think He can't bring you out of where you are? He created the world. In 7 days He spoke it into existence. Why do we think He can't bring us out? Where is our doubt? Why do we doubt? He don't love you enough? Is that what you think? He loved you enough to send His Son to watch Him die upon a cross. He loved you enough that His Son knows how many hairs is on the top of your head.
That's right.
You see, we don't grasp what that means. How many of us got a dog running around the house? How many hairs that dog got on it? That don't mean you don't love it, does it? But if you love it enough, He loves you more than what we could imagine, then He counts the hairs on your head. He loved you enough to send His Son to the most gruesome death you can ever imagine, just to take your sins away so that He could go and build a place so we can live eternally with Him.
Amen. That's right.
He said, I want my people to be restored. You say, well, preacher, how do I get there? I'm glad you asked. We're going to go into verse 3 now. The maker thereof, He formed it, He established it. The Lord is His name. Look at verse 3. Call upon me, and I will answer. Boy, that's complicated, ain't it? He said, call upon me and I will answer thee. He said, all you got to do is give it to me. You want to know why you're walking through a prison? Because you didn't give it to God. You want to know why you're walking through troubles and trials and can't see no end? When was the last time we prayed unto Him? We got to pray to God. We have given up on our prayer life. He said, call unto me. Give it to me. He said, cast your cares upon me. Bring it to me. Bring it to me. I want to carry it for you. He said, you got to call upon me. You see, it ain't no free handouts. And God ain't going to take no ball bat and make you do it. You see, we live in this world and He gives us this thing called free will. We have a choice. We have a choice of the way that we're doing things right now. We have a choice. There's people this morning, I'm going to say this, it's going to be on tape, it's going to be out there, y'all tell them, I don't care. There's people that made a choice this morning not to be here simply because the weather was a little bit cool.
That's right. Amen. You're right.
Shame on me.
Amen.
Shame on me. See, we live in free will. So we have the choice to call out unto God. He said, all you got to do is call unto me. And I thought about this. And I thought, how do we call unto you, Lord? I want all this laid out. I thought, how do we call upon you? The first thing he said is pray. Have an active prayer life. Dig down. Talk to God. Take 20 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day. Go in your prayer closet and cry out to God. And I don't mean, Lord, bless us for no more. I mean, dig down and start crying out. Lord, help me with this. Lord, help that one. Be with this one. Be with that one. Cry out to God about what's in your life. Lord, I want more of you. Fill me up. He said, build a prayer life. And then the other things. He said, worship my name. You see, we live worshiping his name out too many times. We live out worshiping the name of God. Well, I don't want to do that. Why not? Exalt him. Lift him up down here. Let the world know. If you're scared to speak the name of Jesus, then I want to tell you something. Don't bother inviting anybody to church. Because if you can't speak to me what you're going to be there for, then I don't think I'm going to go anyway. Amen?
That's right.
He said, speak my name. Call out unto me. Pray about it. Worship. Lift my name up. Everywhere you go, you are the salt of the earth. You are what gives this world savor. You are what brings life to the deadness that is around us. It is up to you and I to call unto God and to bring this world his word. He said, you want restoration? He said, call unto me. He said, pray, worship. Pray, worship, lift me up. I've told you before, I've seen a lot of people, and some of us was actually talking about it at work, about what are churches teaching anymore. These people that you run into, you can't believe the things they say, the things they do. And then they'll sit there and tell you all about how they was at church Sunday. I don't want that. I don't want that. I want to sit down and tell you how glorious my God was, because he met me at the altar Sunday when I got here. He walked in the door with me. I want you to know my Jesus was there with me because I called out to him.
Amen.
He said, I want to restore you. Even in your times of prison, even in your times of trouble, I want to lift you up and bring you more. I am the maker. I am the creator. I formed it. There is nothing that is too hard for me. All you have to do is ask. You see, he tells us over in the New Testament, said we have not because we ask not. We have not because we ask not. And I believe that's what he was telling Jeremiah back in chapter 2. When he asked, what have I done that my people won't even call to me? What have I done? What is my iniquities that my people won't even talk to me? What is my iniquities? What have I done? What has God done to you that would prevent you from talking to him? What has God done to you? You said, preacher, well, you just won't believe this, and this, and this, and this has all happened. Okay, you've had a stroke of bad luck. Is it well with your soul? Have you talked to God about it? You see, a lot of times we get in these prisons and troubles and trials, and what do? We think we just got to keep riding down it. We think we got to keep walking through the middle of it. We don't understand. We'll never cry out to God, but then we'll blame God because it didn't get better.
That's right.
He said, I want to restore you. He said, all you got to do is call unto me. Call unto me, and I will answer. But is that there in Isaiah, what is it, 5 or something like that, where he says that his arm is not too short and his ear is not deaf, that he cannot hear the cries of his people. He said, when you call unto me, I will hear you. I will answer you. Over in the New Testament, he says that the prayers of a fervent man availeth much. The prayers of a faithful man, the prayers of a man that believes in what he's praying, he said they availeth much. You have not because you ask not. You ain't got it because you never took it to him. You're still packing it because you didn't give it to him for him to pack for you. He said, call unto me, I will answer you. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I created this world and I'm going to walk with you, talk with you, go with you through it all. There's nothing that's too hard for me to do. If you bring it to me, I will answer you. And I like this part. And I will show thee great and mighty things. All the wonders of Jesus. The wonders of Jesus. He said, I'm going to show you great and mighty things that you could never imagine. He said, I'm going to show you when you dig into the Word of God and you start studying the Word of God and you call into the Word of God and you ask God, and I believe Jay right now could stand up and testify to this. When you cry out to God before you open this book up, He will show you things in it that you just can't even imagine. You never thought was in there. He's going to show you the great and mighty things. But you see, when you understand, you are talking to the creator of the universe. When you understand, you are talking to the maker, the former, the establisher of everything that is in this world. When you understand, you are talking to the one that breathed the breath of life into each and every one of us. Church, let me tell you something. He can show you things we can't imagine.
Amen.
But only if you call into Him. I can tell you and show you people that have been touched by the miraculous hand of God, had diseases pulled out of their bodies, had sickness and all this healing done, that even the doctors say, I don't know. But there's more coming. He said, when you call unto me, he said, this is just the start of it. There's more on the way. When you call unto me, he said, I'm going to answer you. And he's telling Israel, he said, I'm going to answer you. And I'm going to show you things you can't even imagine. I'm going to show you things in your life. You see, too many times when we get in these prisons, we get pulled down. And what do? I can't do that. I can't sing in the katana. There's no way I could stand up there and preach. There's no way I can do this. I'm not a part of that. I can't do this. You're right. As long as you're standing there saying you can't do it. But let me tell you something. When you call out unto God, the maker, the creator, he formed you. He breathed the breath of life in you. He can make you sing like a hummingbird out there. He can bring a voice out of you that you never did before. He will show you great and miraculous things if you want to work for him.
Amen.
There's so many times we won't ask him about that. No, I'm good. I'm just going to sit in my pew. Wish he'd shut up so I can go home. I don't know why he gets loud. Ain't no way I'm sitting up there he's going to spit on me. And that's our concerns. That's our concerns. What about a God that said, I've gone to prepare a place for you because I want you to live with me forever? What about a God that says, cast your cares upon me because I care for you? What about a God that says, come unto me, all ye that are heavy laden, all ye that are carrying burdens, all you that don't know where to go? And he said, I will give you rest.
That's right.
This ain't some mummy that they dug up over in Egypt. This ain't even some little cross or nothing that's hanging back there on the wall.
That's right.
You see, my Savior is alive.
Amen.
Y'all didn't get that, did you? My Savior is alive.
Amen.
And He is standing right now on the right hand of the Father.
That's right.
You see, He's standing on the right hand of the man, I guess is the best way to put it. There's nobody bigger, nobody greater, nobody more powerful. What do you call that? The man. And He is standing on the right hand of Him right now. And He said, if you'll call unto me, He said, I'm going to reach down here and tell old Dad. I'm going to reach down here and tell old Dad. See, I'm not even worthy to talk to his Father. But He said, if you'll call on me, He said, I'm standing right here beside Him. I'm right on the right hand because I will be your intercessor. So whatever you ask, whatever you want, whatever you're needing in your life, He said, I'm going to whisper it into man's ear. He said, I'm going to whisper in God's ear. Above all, above anything, everything, more powerful than we can imagine. The one that looked down and said, let's see, it's a little dark. Let there be light. And somebody turned them on. That is the God you and I are serving. That is who we are following right now. So it doesn't matter where you are, what you're going through. The Creator is ready to restore you. You said, preacher, I've been saved for 50 years. Praise God, I'm glad you have. But too many times we begin to wax cold. Too many times we begin to let things start to slip. Too many times we allow our prayer life to start running backwards because there is so many ball games on the watch. It's hard to find time to pray. There's so many. I mean, Sunday afternoon when you got 14, about 12, 13 football games on Sunday. Oh my goodness. You take 14, 15 football games, they just ain't no time to pray. Sure can't study. Sometimes it's hard to go to church. NASCAR starts at 11, so.
That's right.
Now,
Last one.
you see how easy it is? You see how easy it is? Walked out on the porch this morning, I think the thermometer said 36, 37 degrees. A little chilly. Walked back in, the house said it was 74. I said, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Did nobody walk here? Nobody froze before they got here? Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. He is our maker and He wants to restore us. Let's all stand. Jeremiah was shut up in prison. And God spoke to him. The maker that formed it and established it. The Lord, Jehovah, Yahweh is His name. Above all, greater than all, more than all is His name. He said, all you got to do is ask me, and I'm going to answer you. And He said, I'm not only going to answer you, but I'm going to show you things you never imagined. Never knew it. He said, I'm going to show you things that you don't know. I'm going to show you things that are beyond your explanation. He said, call unto me. Call unto me. Give it to me. Don't carry it around. Don't pack it with you. Don't take it out the door. He said, give it to me. He said, because I want to take it away from you. As this song plays, I invite you to come. If you're looking for a little restoration this morning, I want to invite you to come. If you want to call out to God, I invite you to come. If you're in a prison this morning, I invite you to come. Let the Maker show you who He is. Let the Maker show you who He is. Would you come this morning?